In this lesson, what we'll do is spend the time creating our mail window we'll use to easily select between our character sets. This brings us right back to our script editor. So we have a few things to do here. One thing we could do is go ahead and copy this line that we've used for our node generator window, or the script that we've used, that is, and just use that same format for our character sets. Okay, and we'll also need to set up procedures afterwards. So what we can do is right click, make a new tab, make it a mail, and paste. Now we just go through and label everything else as we'd need it to be labeled. So we'll just switch a few of these names around. We can start from the top. We can call the window the char set underscore select. Once we've established the name, just copy and paste wherever we need it to be pasted at. So that's just a few areas here. Great. So now that that's done, we're ready to go ahead and switch our next name. We could call the window our character set selector. So we're going to want to take this name, copy it, and replace it with node generator. Now that that has been named, we move on to naming our string name, or our variable for the window. So we can call that char set cell. Okay, just abbreviating that. We need to copy this line and paste that right at the bottom of our script. Great. So now all of these things have been changed. We're ready to work on changing a few things around as far as our window size. We're probably going to want a little bit larger of a size for our height and width. We could try for a height about 310, and our width can go for about maybe 170. We could also change the width of our buttons, given that a width of perhaps about 70. Great. So now that we have that in place, we're ready to now work on switching these names around in our script that will create our buttons for us. So the first one we're going to make is to allow us to be able to select no character set. We want to make sure that we add that so we have the ability for it. So we can call that none for a button name. For our command, we can call that char none. And then for a label, we can call that no select. Okay, or no selection abbreviated. And now that moves us to our next one for our actual character set for the top node, that is. So we can give that a label of char node. Okay, for our top character node. A command, we can call that simply char. So for our entire character, and a label, we can just call that main character if we wish. Okay, and you could even abbreviate character again, just so that the label isn't so large, the description. Okay, so we're going to want to copy this line and paste it underneath, just so we can work on our next button, which is going to be for our eyes. So we can call this label for our button eyes, and then switch char to eyes. And we want to be mindful of how we're labeling our commands here, because that's going to be important for our procedures. And then for our label, we can call that our eyes node. Okay, so now we just paste again, work on our next one, which is for the face. So we can call that the face. We'll go to calling our command face, and then we can call our label face node. Now we go to the next line, paste, and label the one for our fingers. So that's going to be fingers for our button. We could delete node, we can abbreviate fingers here for our command, just call them fings. And then our label, we can call that fings node. Great. So now that moves us to our next line, which is going to be for our flashlights. We'll probably want to abbreviate things here. Call that same way we've been abbreviating flashlight. We can use that same name that we use for our button to abbreviate flashlight for our command. And we can even go to our main character node here, just switching that name, that is, and call that flashlight node. Alright. After that, if we've copied that line, we'll need to copy our separator and button again, so we can make sure we have a nice split with those separators. We'll paste and work on our third to last, which is going to be for our hat. So this shouldn't need any abbreviation at all. We'll just call that hat. We'll call our command hat, and we'll call our node hat node. Alright. That brings us to our next line, second to last, which is for our upper body. So for this, we can call this the label upper body. For the command, I like to really abbreviate that, so we could just use UB. Okay. And then for the node itself, we can just call that UB node, since we know it's our upper body node. And now that brings us to our last, which is for our lower body. So for the label, we can call that lower body. For the command, we can use LWB, lower body. And for our node, we can call that, again, LWB node. So watch what happens if we go ahead and run this, hit enter. Notice there is our window. Very nice. So now we need to get these buttons working. And what you can do from here is go ahead and just hit Control A, select them, and bring them to the shelf. Use the middle mouse button, drag. There it is. We can minimize our script editor. Just go to our shelf editor. Go to our last line. And then label it CSS, or character set selector, and hit enter. So now we have it right there. When we select it, it comes right up. Great. So now we can go right back to our script editor and work on our last section, okay, which is being able to activate our buttons. So we need to right click, make a new tab, not delete this tab, but make a new one. Call it mail. And remember, we're going to be making one for none all the way to our lower body. So the first thing we'll do is comment, and we'll say our character set select window, or for our character set select window. Now we label our first button, so we're going to want to use proc, and then followed by our first one, which we established as, go ahead and set that as char none. So we can, if we'd like to, just copy this, go ahead and paste. Now, how is the script going to look for that? Well, let's go ahead and work on that. That's going to be set current characters. So that tells it to select the current characters. Now, which one to select? Since that's going to be none, we want to put open close parentheses, and inside of that, we'll put simply an open close curly bracket, followed by a semicolon. So now if we were to run this, notice, if we were to run this, hit Control Enter, what we should get, if we were to, let's say, select our first top node, if we go to our window, select the first one, notice that turns our character set off. So you can see how we're really going to be able to select between them faster doing it this way. Okay. Or at least in my opinion, that is. So we'll go ahead and copy the next one and work on the remainder of them. So the next one we established was simply char, the capital C. We want to make sure we spell them right. Could always double check. There it is. So as far as the selection, remember we called that Watchman 01. Okay. And we want to make sure we get our labels correct so that when we go ahead and run this, okay, notice how our Watchman isn't activating as we'd like it to. So I'd like to also open up basically open up our outliner to see what's happening. And the reason why we didn't have that activated, it's not because we didn't name it correctly, but we're missing something that's very important in order for it to be activated. Now what is that? That's simply a quotation mark. So we need to make sure we add those quotation marks in there. Once we've made sure of that, we hit Control Enter. Notice now no error. What does that give us? Well, let's say if we want to select that character set. There it is. So let's just not make sure we miss the quotation mark in our character set node. And to make sure that, we'll copy this line, we'll paste it, and that should allow us to remember those quotes. So now the next one, that was going to be for our eyes, so we'll go ahead and call it that. And then for a label, remember we decided WM eyes 01. And then we could just continue on copying and pasting, moving down until we have finished. The next one's for our face. And we just simply switch this name in here. So that's WM underscore face 01. If you like, you can move on to the next lesson where we'll just work on applying everything to all of the controls to our character set so that they'll work right, and finish our character set, our character rig. So again, I'm just going to continue with this setup here. The next one's going to be for our fingers. So we established an abbreviated name, Fings. And then for the actual character set, that's going to be Fingers 01. Okay, looking right at the outliner just to double check if you need to. The next one was for our flashlight, so we definitely abbreviated that name. And then for the sub character set, we labeled that WM flashlight 01. Alright, that moves us to our third to last. That's the hat. And we decided its name would be WM underscore hat 01. Now we move to our second to last. For our upper body, that's going to be UB. And that's going to be WM underscore upper underscore body 01. And now that brings us to our very last, which is for our lower body. So that's going to be LWB. And that's going to be Watchman underscore lower underscore body 01. So now we just simply hit Control A, hit Enter. There's no errors. We go ahead and close out our window, bring out our character set. Let's say if I wanted to switch to the hat. There it is. Flashlight, wonderful. Face, lower body, great. So that is the setup of our window to select between our character sets a little bit faster. And with that, that finishes this lesson. So in the next lesson, we'll work on applying, just connecting all of these controls so that they will be influenced by our character sets, and double check our rig quickly to make sure that everything is still moving fine before we call our character finished.